Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's live stream AMA. I was just busy spamming general chat with a new Bob GIF that I'm obsessed with because it's like a mixture between the like Calypso booty shaking bubblegum gummy bears and Bob. So go check out general chat. Really important information. Okay, we're gonna have a chill day today. We can go through. Hold on, I don't know if my mic is working. Hold on. Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me better now. Great, love that. Let's have a good time together. We're gonna go through some stuff as per usual. If you have any questions, throw them in the YouTube live chat or the Twitter live chat, and let's bring up Luke.
Hey everybody. Yeah, no, I'm actually excited on this AMA. So I guess what I wanted to go over today with you guys too is I wanted to have like an active conversation a little bit more than normal. We have basically the base of chapter 3 kind of finished now. And what I'll say about chapter 3 is we wanted to get it done quickly and we wanted to make something that would change the gameplay up enough and still feel like a new chapter, right? So I'll kind of explain to you the high level of what we were thinking and, the decisions of why we made these decisions, like why we're going in this direction. And I want some feedback and I want to like kind of bounce some ideas off of on you guys on, what we should do in addition to the chapter 3 stuff. So I'll kind of explain to you guys high level what we were thinking with chapter 3 and the directives that we gave to the team working on it, right? So for chapter 3, what we wanted to start to add elements of like winning and losing inside of the core game of Pixels, right? We've tried that a little bit with Guild Wars, and Guild Wars was interesting. Spore Sports. And Spore Sports was interesting, but if we think about it from kind of a logical way, it's like competitive farming is kind of funny, right? So what we've done with chapter 3 instead is we still added in elements of competition, but more through this new system of factions. And they complement guilds, they don't take away from guilds, but essentially it's, capped in max plays. So, one person can't grind for 24/7 and greatly influence the outcome, but you still have to kind of work together with your faction. And essentially one faction will come out winning every single time. One will like kind of break even, and one faction is going to lose every time. So it kind of adds in risk to earn elements into the core gameplay. And this is tied in with some of the higher level thinking of what we're, moving towards when we build out Pixels, when we talk about sustainability and play to earn, right? So the kind of idea that we're trying to figure out is, how do we make the core Pixels game sustain itself, right? Some people don't like the idea of sustainability inside of Web3, and there is some debate on like how sustainable you actually need to be, right? Now, I'm of the opinion that the game needs to support itself to stay in the long run. That way, there's never a question of if core Pixels has to make a decision like Pirate Nation did. We still have a lot of runway. We still have like, dedication, and we're going to keep core Pixels on for as long as we can, but it's so much easier to do it if it can also support itself, right? So what we need to do to make that happen is essentially we've been talking about this metric called ROARs, return on reward spend, so much. And you guys probably are getting sick of it, but ROARs is the best measure of sustainability of the game, right? So how we determine ROARs is, are we giving out less tokens than we monetize on every single week, every single day, right? If you get like more into the details, it doesn't need to be on a day by day. Like sometimes you might give out a reward and, somebody doesn't really spend inside of the game until like a month later at times. But like the most basic measurement is a per day or a per month. How many rewards are given out every single month? How much in-game spend was there every single month? So what we've learned is there's definitely different game mechanics that suit this more, right? And it's interesting because even some of the game mechanics in Pixels right now that actually do give out a lot of rewards and aren't really monetizing, which, in theory, more rewards or like less money I have to spend to get these rewards should be fun, aren't really fun to the players anymore. And I'm specifically talking about Taskboard, right? So a lot of the game in core Pixels right now has just been, I'll go into the Taskboard every single day. I'll go and buy from the marketplace and I'll fill in my orders. A lot of people, even though the game has changed a little bit in the last couple months, for a long time weren't even farming their own resources. They would just go straight to the marketplace, do the Taskboard, and like do that for a long time too. And we started asking ourselves the question of like, why are we making people do this in the first place? right? Doesn't really make sense. So chapter 3, what we want to do is we want to start to introduce new types of gameplay that would get us closer to positive rewards, and maybe make the game have less dependence on some of the mechanics that have gotten a little stale right now. So the main idea with chapter 3 in the high level, and we'll go a little bit more into the details later, is you'll basically have to work with a faction to, I think we're calling them hearths, like build a hearth.
Isn't it
Um,
hearth? Is it hearth?
hearth.
I've been reading it as hearth.
Maybe
Is
it
it
is.
hearth?
Well, it's funny.
Wait,
That's one of those words that, like, I just have read in novels.
yeah.
I've never actually heard out loud.
How often do I come on this AMA and just be like, I've never said this out loud before?
Yeah. Normally
Okay.
it's some technical term, but this is just like a.
Usually it's a username. Like usually it's someone's actual name. So this matters less than messing up someone's name.
Yeah. So basically, there's like these stations, and each faction has its own station, and you'll be able to build up your faction station. You want to get it to like full completion. If your faction has a complete station, then it wins, and it wins like the top prize. And you can also sabotage other people's stations and hearths as well too. But the main gameplay mechanic that comes from that is like it's still fueled by all of the resources in the core game, like tier 3 and the tier 4 resources specifically will give a big advantage compared to tier 1 and tier 2. And in this gameplay, we want to run it like, we're debating how long like these factions or these stations or these hearths last. Basically, like it could be just like every single day, it could be every 2 weeks, it could be every month. We're gonna have to experiment with timing and all of this kind of stuff and like the live ops of it. But it's gonna be an ongoing feature. That's kind of the idea. Not like sports, which sports was only up for a period of time, or there's seasons and stuff like that too. It's gonna be like ongoing. We have to test a few things, like how many people actually will participate in this game loop. I have a feeling, and this is going to be a big part of the discussion for today, is if we start to move earnings away from Taskboard and more to features like this, there will probably be higher participation, right? So you might have to compete a little bit, and we don't even necessarily need to make that competition positive roars right away, but that could be the kind of idea. So Erevan said we need weapons to fight. Here's what I'll say. So we don't have combat inside of the game right now. Really, I think combat's interesting. Combat would take a long time to build, but it's not possible, right? Like if we want to build something, we can build it. For a long time, we were even looking at like acquiring a game that already had combat inside of it, right? And that wouldn't have been too costly for us to do it. It would have been pretty possible. The reason why we didn't do that yet is because there's still bigger questions that we're trying to figure out with the economic systems. So, just because we dress the game up with fancy combat doesn't mean the system behind it is the right one. And we want to experiment with the economics a little bit more first, right? So if chapter 3 goes well and the economics are looking solid, the best way that we could basically do the economics, like the best sense of if it's working or not, is if we massively increase the return on reward spend in this game loop. Then we'll probably put in even a higher investment into this kind of gameplay, basically. So the idea will be we can make it higher fidelity. And when I say higher fidelity, that does mean like, okay, we know that you guys like this aspect of competition. We know that we've kind of nailed down the economic systems. Then maybe what we can do now is we can actually add in like more full-fledged combat. But if the systems behind it doesn't work, if we can't make it sustainable or profitable, or at least in the direction of that, then it doesn't make sense. We kind of have to go back to the drawing board. A good example would be if chapter 3 doesn't work out in the way that we would want it to be. Somebody did say, I have to confess, I'm addicted to Neon Zone. I keep thanking you guys for that. Yesterday, I bought my first land because I'm really having fun and I trust you guys. Yeah, the Neon Zone stuff has been pretty interesting. If you look at the different economics of all the gameplay right now, like Neon Zone in the Pixels core game is actually like very positive return on reward spend. It's fun. There's social elements, all of this. Like, yeah, if we had turned off Taskboard and just put Neon Zone on, Pixels would be positive rewards right now, which is interesting, right? So that's not something we're going to do immediately, but it's something that where it's like, oh, if the game needs to support itself in the long run, like mechanics more like this are semi-interesting. I still love the social aspect. Like I wouldn't want to get rid of any of that. Transparently, we even talked about and this isn't something I'm really like supposed to share, but it's just like I'm just giving you like our line of thinking. I'm not saying that we're going to do this. I'm not saying that this is like the right thing to do, but transparently, we even thought about like rolling Neon Zone into its own product, maybe because people liked it so much, and just kind of having it be standalone and building a different version that would work with, USDC or Ron, or like a coin like that, so that if you don't play pixels, maybe you would go into that quicker, right? But
Sorry. So everyone is saying it's Hearth, and then I just went on Google Translate to it's Hearth. You're correct. It's me. I'm the one been saying it wrong in my head this whole time. It's Hearth, guys. Sorry. Continue.
Nice. Yeah, I wasn't very confident in that.
I wasn't either.
Yeah, so I'm not saying no more Taskboard. Here's some things that we could do inside of the game besides just removing Taskboard and what we've been talking about. So one thing that we could do is we could, instead of removing Taskboard completely, just make Taskboard coins only. So that's the way that you earn coins, right? And maybe that's the only way that you can earn coins through the Taskboard. It's funny because a lot of people play the Taskboard right now where they don't care about the coins at all that they're getting in it. They almost throw away the coins so that they can just go and get more pixel, which is kind of silly, right? Like imagine if you had to get coins just through the Taskboard or purchasing or whatever. There's still a marketplace, all of that kind of stuff. And then, the pixel faucets were from like the more competitive aspects of the game. So that's one thing that we're thinking about, right? Here's why I'm a little worried about that and why that might not be the right decision. So right now, a lot of the in-game item demand is driven through the Taskboard, right? Essentially what the Taskboard is doing right now is we're buying back items that you produce with pixel and with coins. So that does make it so that if you're going to go and farm resources, it feels a lot more worth it, right? It's an artificial demand for the in-game resources. And it's interesting, but also, is that really the right way to build out demand for the resources? Here is what the most ideal version of the resources being demanded would be. Like if you had to use them inside of a game loop where they get used really often and you were competing for something, like in Web 2 games like RuneScape or World of Warcraft, there's a lot of sinks in the end game and demand for resources through mechanics like PvP or raids or any other thing like that. And yeah, there's like ongoing demand for resources that way. And it's a bit more natural and organic, right? Like we kind of force the demand for the items if we don't have those end game loops. So this is what we're going to see with chapter 3. Like, can we actually create more organic demand for these end game items or the resources? That way we don't need to give as much for these resources in the actual task board. And then instead we can actually fund prize pools or like higher level competition for the in-game spend and still make the game loop compelling, right? So that's kind of what we're thinking there. There's give some comments and ask some questions too, because we can kind of discuss this in real time also. Yeah, somebody said, where is this one? Somebody said Pixels doesn't need a combat system. Otherwise, we'll be looking at a Web3 Stardew Valley. Would love to see it have a unique system other than combat. Yeah, so I generally agree. I grew up playing RuneScape. Like I like combat in a game, and there's so much that you can do with that, right? Like most people who play MMOs do combat for most of their gameplay. Like even when I did play RuneScape, I had a couple different accounts. Don't call me a multi-accounter.
Bot.
Yeah. But like, it's kind of common for people to do like skilling accounts, right? So I had one account that I did no combat on. I kept it at level 3 and I just like did all the skills. I, did merchant stuff. Like I would just like flip items. I thought that was fun. But like, the most fun accounts are when you do some of the combat. You get a lot more gameplay out of it too. But the big thing with combat is just having combat in the game. You probably have seen it with some Web3 games. Doesn't fix the economic issues. Like there's still bigger things to solve first when it comes to game economy. And the combat is kind of just it's like a dressing on top, right? There's a few things that you need to really nail in in order to make it work. Like one, the combat needs to feel sufficiently skill based, or at least the gameplay needs to feel sufficiently skill based, right? And you also need to kind of make people have false assumptions. Here's where like the risk and the gameplay gets interesting is when people think they're better at a game than they are. That's when there's interesting like mechanics that start to like unfold, basically, especially when you're dealing with a real money economy. If everybody makes completely rational decisions where it's like, oh, my build is always better than that person's build, there's no chance, there's no elements of risk, and the gameplay becomes a lot less interesting, which is where combat and skill-based elements of gameplay do really help a game like this, right? But there's ways to get skill-based gameplay inside of these kinds of game loops without necessarily combat. And truthfully, it's a lot harder to build a skill-based combat system than it used to be too. Like if you play card games now, or even games like, Axie, or like any battler, there's just like very straightforward meta a lot of the times now. And there is elements of skill, but like you can use AI to be like, what card should I play? Right? And they'll give you like the optimal card, some things like that too. So yeah, the skill-based stuff to me in Web3, and when you start to add real money into the game loop, becomes a lot more complicated. Like we talked about this in AMAs before, but I personally think the most skill-based game in the world right now is like Bitcoin futures or something like that, right? Where there's like millions of different levers and variables where if you know how to predict the price of Bitcoin, you'll be a very rich person.
Sorry,
But
did you just call like trading a game?
I think, yeah, well, I think all of crypto is a game, to be honest. And I think
I'm sorry.
I think trading is a game.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, this is just like a life philosophy thing, but I think you can look at the lens of like most of life as a game. And trading has rules, right? There's like a bunch of different things you have to think about when you think about making a good trade. You have to learn the rules of the game. You have to like understand the risk associated with it, and you're playing like in small bets or big bets if you're a crazy trader, right? But truthfully, I think that's what a lot of like Web3 games will end up looking like when it comes to skill-based gameplay. And the more areas you're able to add kind of like entropy or like chaos into the mix, where it gets harder to predict things, like the more interesting it gets. But yeah, that's what we're thinking about.
Okay, wait. Someone on our team just said it was actually spelled HARTH, like hearth, without the E in it 400 years ago. So it's got to be hearth. Anyways, I think we've solved it. I think we know now. Okay, I've pinned a bunch of things that I wanted to. Oh, I'm going to leak something. Are you guys ready? I think you guys are going to like this leak. I don't have a timeline on this leak yet. Could be 2 to 4 weeks. Okay. For all I know, it's 2 to 4 weeks. Pets, traits. 1 second. Luck and strength are getting updates. I don't know what the update is. I know it's coming, and I'm going to call it as 2 to 4 weeks because that means nothing. I don't know when, but that's your leak of the AMA. Okay, they are in the works. Oh no, wait, I can leak more. Not really. I'm gonna suggest. Will we ever get more quality of life updates related to lowering the click to play, like the leaky Luke watering can? Yes, there are more things in the works, and that's all I'm gonna say on that leak. Wait, that's kind of a pun. Yeah, there's more. there's more in the works there. Okay. When you were talking about skill-based versus luck-based, Kieran asked this, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, is what I'll say.
Yeah. Depends on the game too.
Yeah, it depends a little bit more on the game. Yeah, so Neon Zone is cool because it's integrated into the gameplay. Like a lot of the rewards are like because of the game, and it works a lot better because of that too. Imagine if it was standalone and you were just doing USDC, right? It would feel a little bit worse. And there's something that I don't like about that. If we were ever to move it standalone, there is this idea and concept of like social casino, where like some of them, and this is just like a Web 2 concept actually, social casino. There's obviously casinos out there in Web 2 or even like somewhat Web 3, like Rollbit and Stake, that basically try to take as much money from people as possible. There's ones that are a little bit friendlier where like they even have max buy-in sometimes, so it's like you can only spend like 10 or 20 bucks a month. And the rewards are more about like, you know, getting cool skins for a character inside of it, all of that. It's a little bit friendlier. And to me, like, you know, I wouldn't want to build a max extracting casino. There's plenty of people doing that in crypto. I think it's kind of slimy. Never the space I want to get into. These are interesting alternatives. Don't know if we'll go in that space, but it's something to look into a little bit. But yeah, I think it works best when there's skill-based elements, right? And skill-based can look like a lot of different things, and it still can have some elements of luck. Like poker is a really good example of, you know, a game that is a game of chance, but still, if you are good at the game, you will tend to do better, you know, most of the time. If you've never played competitive poker and you're playing with somebody who knows how to play poker, you're going to get rinsed, even though the cards are all random and lucky, right? So when you think about any game that has like some real money aspect to it, whether it be crypto or whether it be, you know, play to earn, all of that, you know, I think that's kind of the way to view it. Like, you know, you need things to be a little random no matter what. If everything was completely deterministic, which basically means like, you know, you're guaranteed something, which is somewhat taskboard sometimes, right? Um, a little bit less, but if you always can calculate, you know, ROI in a system, then it doesn't really work in a sustainable way, right? And that's kind of the issue with some of the ways that people play pixels now, and why adding in competition probably will make the game more sustainable, right? Because if you're playing pixels and just doing the task board, you're always going to think about like maximum ROI. Maybe sometimes you'll take less ROI if you're, you know, trying to level up and it's for a reason, right? And you view it more like an investment where it's like, okay, I know I'm not going to get as much pixel now, or I'm going to spend my pixel trying to level up, but I'm doing it with the expectation that I will get more pixel later. And when you start to add in competition or skill based, it makes things work for, you know, both people's favors a little bit more, right? If a player sufficiently feels like, you know, the work that they put into skill will translate to a chance for them to earn better, it's good. Now, this also can go too far too. You see this in a bunch of games actually. You know, I've been following Cambria, Degen Arena is what they're calling it now, right? Pixel Dungeons has the same issue. Funny enough, Kieran's one of these people, where sometimes there can be crazy skill gaps between players too. And somebody who's really, really good at the game, if it's skill based even, will actually discourage new players from coming to play the game, and also like, you know, increasing pool and stuff like that too. This is something that is like kind of normal with online poker also, and that's why online poker buckets players into like high stakes basically. But it's interesting because just because someone's really good at the game doesn't always mean they're like a high stakes player either. But yeah, it's an interesting paradox, like one of those things you have to solve when you're building out and designing Web3 games and systems. Like, how do you make the game feel approachable to new people? How do you make it so that skill is an important part of the earnings? How do you make it so that people can't run away too much with high skill? Or at least, like, who are you building for? Are you building for the people who are extremely high skill and high stakes? Or are you building for a bigger audience? Like a good example of like the difference between that with some real money games that exist now would be, there are online poker sites that target high stakes users. So users that are, you know, really good at poker and, you know, spend a lot of money playing poker, and they don't even care about the other 99% of users. Like if you're just okay at poker, they don't even want you to play on their site because they're just targeting those high stakes users. They actually tend to make most of their money, even like, you know, even casinos in Vegas make most of their money on high stakes tables, not normal tables. But yeah, that's kind of an issue because you're leaving out so many other people. So, you know, if you go too crazy into the real money stuff, and if you go too crazy into like casino, if you're building out games, it's not so fun. You're missing out on like a lot of users. You know, I don't like the ethics behind it either, of like trying to get as much out of a user as possible. So yeah, there's good analogies to bring in when you're thinking about Web3 gaming, because Web3 gaming is basically turning a Web2 game and adding some real money aspect. But if you go like a casino, it doesn't work either. So yeah, that's a lot of what we're thinking about with chapter 3 also. Like, how do we make the game approachable? How do we make it so that there's some skill, but you don't have too much of a skill advantage, so that new players feel like they can still come in and learn, compete also. How do you do rewards that way? How do you make it feel fair? How do you um, how do you actually make a game like support itself and like semi-profitable while still feeling fair to users too? Good example of some issues that we had in core pixels for a long time was, we were bringing in Web 2 monetization practices that work really well in Web 2 and generate a lot of revenue in Web 2. However, it feels way ickier in Web 3 than it does in Web 2. A good example would be some of the gotchas that we had done for like Halloween and um, for like the holiday event last year, right? They were really good practices in Web 2 when we were doing these gotchas and all of this. And, they generated a lot of pixel burn, except the pixel burn feels a lot worse when you're having a Web 3 part of the game or like a real money part of the game, right? So you can't just take what works in free to play or Web 2 either. Like, there's hybrid approaches. One thing I'm thinking about a lot when we think about sustainability and like making the game profitable and focusing on the economics of the game, but then still doing it in a way that feels fair to players is a concept of rake, which some of these like real money games do this too. Where imagine if we did a gotcha and we made sure that there were enough prizes in the gotcha that we gave out, like, say that 100,000 pixel is spent on a gotcha that we do, and we, instead for the gotcha, decide how many rewards are going to be given out from the gotcha based on how much is spent. We take out something like 10%, not anything that's too crazy, and then 90% of the rewards, like 90,000 pixel, would go to users through the gotcha. Like, that could be an interesting way to do it, right? Where the gotcha feels pretty fair. We're still taking out that 10%, which, again, any revenue that Pixels makes is actually going directly to stakers right now. We're getting locked. The Pixels team doesn't sell the token. The Pixels team doesn't like liquidate it. Like, truly, the team is just worried about, like, how do we make it so that in-game revenue also helps all stakeholders of the ecosystem, holders, speculators, all of that. So yeah, that probably brought up a lot of questions, maybe not. But this is the kind of stuff we're thinking through right now.
Okay, in the meantime, I have a comment to make. So we have roughly 1,000 people watching this live stream right now, which is awesome. But 700 to 800 of you are on Twitter, which is great. I don't really care where you're watching from. Hello. But that means that only like maybe 200 people are watching on YouTube, and yet our live chat is like 90% YouTubers. So if you're on X, please click into the live stream and you can ask all of your questions in the live chat there. I want more questions from you guys, more people. Okay. Actually, while we're talking about AMA stuff, someone asked a question that I kind of found a bit funny. Hold on, where was it? Oh, Heidi, there haven't been recaps for 2 weeks now. Did you fire the person responsible for this? No, the opposite. They actually got a promotion. So they're just like very busy. So unfortunately, they're just not able to always write recaps. However, we have so many content creators that post recaps on X. I actually just pinged the team to tell me. Nature Bean used to do it, but she's been busy. Okay, hold on. Okay, they did not tell me a list. Damn it. I was hoping they would tell me a list of people, but we have a lot of content creators that write really good recaps. So when our team can't get around to it, make sure you're checking your favorite content creators because they might have written something cool. Okay, back to it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going through some questions right now. Yeah, let me know if you guys like that kind of stuff too. Like I got kind of deep into like thinking and philosophy of building a Web3 game because I think this is a good time to rethink what we're doing a lot. So I did see one question that we'll bring up because it goes into the mindset also. Two here actually. Um, so is Web2 project collabs with Pixel still a thing? Then somebody said many Web3 projects would like to advertise their product in Pixels. So here's one of the things that we recently talked about. I've been talking on podcast about it a lot recently, and I tweeted about it the other day. So pixel staking, right? We've actually built a really, really elegant solution to Web3 publishing, right? And what publishing is, just so you guys understand, is basically we have a token, right? We have to give it out every single month, and like publishing is one route that we could use to basically build out revenue streams inside of the ecosystem and reward the ecosystem with those revenue streams, right? So essentially how publishing normally works is you'll go to a game that's like up and coming, right? And this game needs like a little bit of capital to like go and start to advertise and grow their game. And Pixels has tokens that they can give out every single month to help that, right? And normally if you're in the Web2 space, you'll strike up a publishing agreement, which basically means we'll give you a little bit of capital, and in turn, when your game makes money, you give some money back to us, right? Like a rev share agreement. And in Web3, what we did with Pixel staking is we kind of did a way to do this permissionlessly, where you can publish games in Web3 with our staking system, and it's all code. It's all done autonomously. It's a pretty cool system. Now the thing is, the issue is there's actually not that many Web3 games out there that we could publish. Think about the amount of Web3 games that are left alive right now. There's not that many. Now, even think about just the ones who are alive. How many could actually make revenue that would be able to be given back to the ecosystem? Very few, right? I'd probably have talked to all of them at this point. And, it's still interesting. We'll prefer Web3 candidates to come in. But the thing is, the market's too small, right? And the market's not getting bigger anytime soon. So that's the same thing with like Web3 advertisers. Truthfully, yeah, there are a lot of Web3 projects that would like to advertise inside of Pixels, but how many can actually spend money on an advertisement that is meaningful enough to go back to the Pixels ecosystem? Not that many. So a lot of what we're thinking, and this also relates to the Pets app, is Web3 market right now is shrunk in Web3 gaming a good amount. And what we need to do is we need to figure out how to bring the best concepts of Web3 to normal people. Because the market as is right now, it's not big enough to actually go and pursue as a Web3 native market. What we really need to do is not wait for the market to get bigger, which is if the market does get bigger without us doing anything, Pixels and every other Web3 game that's been building will do very well, right? Sometimes what I like to tell people is like there's maybe like a 30% chance that nobody in Web3 gaming does anything. The Web3 gaming space just starts doing really well, and we're all pretty happy after that, right? That's just how markets work sometimes. But the other side of things too is like I like to be proactive, and I do like to think about ways that we can be an influence on the market and how we can make the market bigger. And if we want to make the market bigger, if we actually want people to believe in Web3 gaming outside of this little circle here on crypto Twitter, we have to go outside of crypto Twitter and we have to bring in new users who maybe are not as into the Web3 parts, but they don't know it yet either. Now, some people, what they thought, and this was their thesis, this is not my thesis, the original thesis for a lot of Web3 games was, we'll make the Web3 gaming so good, we'll make the onboarding so good, where, they won't even know they're using crypto. Now, I have a different thesis moving forward. What I want to do is, truthfully, I don't even care if these people are using crypto or not. We have a system, the staking system, that will benefit the people that do care about crypto, right? So if we can include any Web2 stuff that we do into the staking system, we don't have to worry about if the actual product is Web3 or not, right? The people who care about the Web3 side of things can participate through staking and through these other systems. And then we can go out and go to market with other people here. Maybe these people will start to see, oh, like they have some cool stuff here in the Web3 side of things. I should check out Core Pixels. I should check out the staking. I want to participate. Maybe we can even give these people some Web3 things too. But we don't want to make the experience feel crypto native to anybody that we work with. And we don't want to force it where it doesn't make sense either. So, with publishing, this is a good example. We can go out and publish Web2 games. We can still give them incentives. We've even been working on tech that will make this like kind of interesting too. But then we can, help them be successful, and then they can share some of the benefits of that with the community through the staking system. And we don't need to force the Web3 side of things on them, but everybody in the Web3 side still benefits, right? Same thing with the Pets app too. We've made an active decision. Let me see if I can share it too, to not make any of the initial flows of the Pets app require a wallet or even talk about crypto in the beginning stages. Now, yeah, the app is looking pretty good now. It's black. 1 second. That just ran out of battery.
Is mine here?
No,
I don't have the latest build though.
Yeah, I want to. How do I make this look better?
Well, that's not the app.
You can see all my tabs. 1 second. Yeah, I like to, when I test apps like this, I like to test on the cheapest hardware possible. So I bought like a ton of just $100 Android phones so that we can make sure that it still looks smooth on any phone. So sometimes this phone is a little slow.
Yeah, well, this one's so old. It's like been turning on this whole time.
Here we go. Yeah, so this Pets app is actually looking really good. My pet's a little sad right now. But yeah, I'll share some screenshots later. But the polish is looking good. I'm excited about it. Here's how this Pets app is going to work. We're going to add play to earn elements to it, actually. That was one thing that we're deciding, like, 50-50 if we actually even do that. But the play to earn will not be so obvious that it's crypto at the beginning stages. Now, and we might even have like a non-crypto option for play to earn as well. I don't mind sharing any of his stuff publicly. Like, sometimes I've been wondering, do I share too much publicly about like our secret sauce decisions?
Or you just had that thought just now?
Yeah. Well, it's
just
funny.
now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do copy us and they don't say it. Or sometimes they do tell me that afterwards. And sometimes I'm like, oh, am I helping competition too much? The thing is though, I think if we're thinking about competition in this stage of building a business, it's really so silly.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, the sound is impressive.
Was it really loud? Sorry. It's so quiet.
Yeah, the thing with this app is, we're targeting a Web2 audience, and the game will feel Web2, and there will be some play to earn aspects. The play to earn will be through this new system that we're actually going to be rolling out in Pixels pretty soon, called our offer wall, right? So we've been building this for a long time, and this is kind of like the future of earnings in our ecosystem and what we kind of want to transition a lot of earnings to in the long run. It's basically a new system for us to hyper target earnings to users. Like, I can give different earnings to every single user if I wanted to through the system, right? Based on like everything that we know about you, your spend behaviors, your patterns, all of the stuff that we've learned on like what is the most effective reward for ecosystem. It's the same system that'll be powering earnings inside of. Why are you laughing?
Because it was really loud. I'm playing the mini games in the pet app.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it'll be through this new system. We're rolling out the system in core Pixels, but this system will work with every single Pixels ecosystem game. Like Forgotten Runeverse could use it if they want to. Pixel Dungeons will use it. Sleepy Pikachu will use it. And we'll even roll out the same system to Web2 games, which is interesting. Like, essentially, we can make any game play to earn with this system, which is really, really cool. And we have a ton of data science behind it to make sure that the earnings are, accurate, good. They're not going to bots. And yeah, this system will roll out through the Pets app. What'll be cool about this is this earning system will be crypto, but people won't know it first. Basically, they'll be able to earn rewards and then they'll be able to cash them out as crypto, or maybe even, well, this is one thing that we're thinking about too. We'll maybe even add optional cash out for rewards. they're not just crypto, but also maybe gift cards too. So we can do a fully Web2 play to earn stack also. And then again, everything here, like the Pets app specifically, and anything else that we publish will be included in the staking system. So we'll still have all the Web3 benefits for what we're trying to do. And yeah, that's the high level of it basically. So yeah, I'm sure that you guys have some questions about that. I know some people just want to talk about the normal game too. But I'm trying to give you some insights into like the way that we're thinking long term also.
Oh, am I frozen? We're back. There was. Oh, okay. This one is just the regular. Oh, sorry, I won't change topic. Are there things related that you want to talk about, or
I'm just going
to pull
through.
something
I'm
else
looking
up?
through some questions right now.
Okay,
Probably
I'll pull up
grid.
in the meantime. The latest quest was awesome. I really like running from one NPC to another, more story, less tasks. Kudos. That's really awesome to hear. Because some quests that we build out will just be. Sorry, this phone is glitching. It's so old. Some things that we build out in the future, we want to be a little bit more narrative heavy than just or than like task based, and then other ones will be more like Alina's first quest where you really had to figure things out. So we do have actually a series of quests coming out very shortly that are targeted at beginners. So I'm sure that all 1,200 of you watching right now, most of you probably already have the levels 10x what you'll actually need. But if you're new, hello. And in the first early levels, there's going to be some quests added just for funsies. And they have a little bit more lore associated to them, but they're very simple. So yeah, on the kind of like more live ops side, we're definitely more focused, which a lot of you will have noticed, on building out quests and activities that you all can experience and that are kept permanently in the game. So as opposed to like these really massive events that were temporary, and they were great and they were fun, but oftentimes they were almost too complex. And so they only targeted like a small portion of our player base. And also it was a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of work for something that was temporary, right? So that's not to say we won't do those again, but right now we're definitely focused on these like permanent additions to the game. I'm gonna leak a little bit. We have a partnership coming up. We have a partnership coming up with you don't even know. You do know if you think. We talked about it like a month or two ago. There's a partnership quest coming out in the next little while, and been working really hard on building out like new maps for it that are going to be permanent additions to the game, which we will also build off of in the future too. So just like some really more like fun stuff coming out, like what you're talking about. So I'll stop rambling, but love to hear it.
Okay, I just started a bunch of questions. There's some good ones. So this
You
person
started
asked-
when tractor pet. So
okay, wait. I don't even. To be honest, I think some are hiding some stuff from me.
no.
I mean, I saw tractors in game today. Is all I'll say. And I hadn't heard them.
Cass is just. I was trying to figure out. We got Leaky Luke, hinting Heidi. I was like commenting Cass, like we need some alliteration word because he's been leaking stuff. So yes, that is not a pet, and I won't say anymore.
Okay. Well, yeah, a lot of people were asking. I did see that comment a lot. When tractor?
There's a reason for it.
Okay, so somebody asked, "Hey, give us some statistics. I'm curious. Have VIP sales fallen over the last 6 months?" So I've been saying this every AMA, guys, but we actually make all of the revenue data completely public now. You can go to pixels.xyz and go to our staking portal, and you can go into each game, and what you'll see is a dashboard of the daily earnings inside of the game and the daily revenue inside of the game. And if you can see, revenue has been about like double from what it was a month or two ago. Things like VIP tiering have really helped. Neon Zone helped a lot too. Like this is the day that VIP tiering came out. This is the day that Neon Zone first came out. And yeah, you don't see today's data, but it looks like today's data is promising too, with Neon Zone coming back for a little bit, right? But yeah, it's all public. You can see it. You can take a look and you can see how we're doing on rewards. If you even scroll down, you'll see that rewards has been increasing pretty consistently too. Some days we've been over 1. We're hovering at around like 0.8 right now. And yeah, the goal would be to get this over 1 for chapter 3. And if we can get over 1, somebody asked some good questions about DAU. Here's 1 second. Wait, I saw another good question too. I think I started it.
What was it about?
How do you see DAU growth being sustainable, also solving the challenge of PDE models? So here's why return on reward spend is so important. And this was a strategy and a deliberate choice that we made a couple of months ago. So Pixels was known as like a very high DAU game, and Pixels actually did have a very high DAU game. It's funny because people don't give us respect for the amount of real users that we actually have. But if you guys were in this community, you guys know that there were hundreds of thousands of people playing Pixels every day for real. At the peak of like last year in June, right? There were bots too, but if you lived in the Philippines, you know how many people were playing Pixels, right? Your grandmas, your aunties, maybe not all of these people are still playing today, but we did have some mania hysteria there, right? So we made a deliberate decision a couple months ago, and we were really worried this was going to hurt public perception, but we knew we had to make it happen. We saw return on reward spend really dipping, right? It was getting quite low. And it's like, okay, we're not on the right path to growing this game in a way that will make it stay around forever. And we need to change up something, right? Incentivizing all this DAU is not really helping the game in the way that it needs to be. We need to focus on the economics first. And that means that we're going to lose some users. We have to be okay with that in the short term. So that was the decision that we made. We went from 200,000 DAU, and now we're sitting at like 30,000 good DAU consistently. And yeah, what we're focused on now is getting this roars to 1. Then when we get roars to 1, we can start adding in growth incentives, right? That's one thing that we haven't really focused on right now. We haven't focused on referrals. We haven't focused on growth, no UA. And when that return on reward spend is over 1, we can start to do that in a sustainable way, right? So what will probably happen is we'll get to 1, and every single time that we start to add in new users, it'll probably dip a little bit, right? Because you guys are amazing users. Like I would guess, because you guys have been with this game so much, your like ARPU, your average revenue per user, would be higher than somebody else coming in, unless we're able to like really get the right users for the next time, because the game's gotten significantly more fun, or we've made a ton of progress in these areas. So yeah, the goal would be basically after that to
Sorry, someone posted this in Discord, and I think it's so funny. It says solving the Web3. Hold on, I can zoom.
Yeah, that, or maybe this is higher or lower too. We can be honest. I think I like higher or lower better than solving.
Valid. All right, you can go back to your chart.
That was basically the idea. Like, okay, we're okay with a short-term cut in DAU if the game is on track to being more sustainable, and then we can start to grow with sustainability in mind and keep that sustainability up as we start to grow users. So if we can start to see that with core Pixels, then what we'll focus on is distribution again. So two things that are like really key insights is 1, like the user experience of joining Pixels is still not good enough. But to me, it doesn't really matter until it's in the right economic state. But there's a lot of stuff that we can do to improve distribution and improve making the game easier for more casual people to play and start playing. A very good example is we haven't been taking credit card payments, and it is so hard to spend money in the game if you want to, even if you really like the game. Like right now, if you don't have any crypto, what you have to do is you have to get a Binance account. You have to go and buy Pixel. You have to put Pixel from Binance into a hot wallet. You have to then go from your hot wallet to depositing the Pixel inside of the game. It's silly. We did 20 million in revenue in 2024. And sometimes I think about how much revenue we missed out on because we didn't, allow credit card payments. It's so crazy hard to do it right now. And like, truthfully, we might even have a positive ROAS if we had just accepted credit card payments from the beginning, right? So there's some issues there. The other thing too is I think getting into mobile, if we actually solve these economic issues with core Pixels, will be extremely important. Maybe what it means is we need to kind of like change what Pixels looks like to be a little bit more mobile friendly, keep the back end, keep all the economics, but make like a more like Pixels Go version just specifically for mobile, have it still be crossplay. That's like one thing I've thought about a lot. But yeah, that's kind of the key thing there. Somebody asked, are crypto earnings valid on the app stores now? So they're not valid on the app store directly, but what we can do is we can offer a web portal where if we give you earnings inside of the game, you probably won't be able to cash out directly in the app. But if you go and sign up online to this website that we're going to be building out, then you'll be able to cash out online. So you'll be able to earn inside of the game, cash out online with crypto. That's pretty valid now after the Epic lawsuits.
Look at the ones I just pinned.
This one?
Yeah, and then his follow-up if you wanted.
Why not make a Pixels Pay? So you don't have to move all the game to be fully regulated. So I thought we might have to build our own credit card processing. So the thing is, credit card processing is its own big thing, right? Especially if you're in like a riskier space. If you're a Web3 startup or if you have anything to do with Web3, you will not be able to use Stripe. Stripe won't let you be a customer, right? And that's the normal credit card payment processor for startups. So you actually have to go and work with, alternative payment processors. It's a whole business. Like these alternative payment processors, they're the ones that, do payment processing for shady websites all across the internet. It's a weird game that you have to play. I would rather just make it so that we work with Apple Pay and then figure out how to make the Apple Pay revenue work for Web3, right? Like just meet the users where they are and make it super, super easy for them, and then find ways to benefit the users who want to be on chain, right? Because not every user cares. There are benefits to being on chain, right? And like I would love to educate the entire world on why the on chain stuff is so important. But the truth is, a lot of users don't care at all. So we shouldn't add friction for those particular users. I want to keep the Web3 elements for the people that do care. And the Web3 elements also do make the game more interesting. Like the marketplace in Pixels is so much more interesting than the marketplace in the Stardew Valley, right? Because there's like a real component to it. It's a real economy. And that part makes the game much better than the Web 2 version, right? So we'll keep the Web 3 aspects where they make sense. But we don't want to cause friction to stop new users from coming in either. It's kind of a balance, right? What else?
We only got like 4 minutes left, so choose wisely.
There's a lot of game questions, specifically around merchant ships too.
Yeah, merchant ships, things are in the works.
There's an update coming. Can I say that around merchant ships specifically? That is correct, right?
I just don't know. I don't know the details, so I like can't say anything.
What I will say is the team is like focused on
Exactly.
merchant ships. There is an update coming, and the team that's been really digging into this is like, I think you guys should have some trust with them now. Like I want to give some kudos to them. Like we talked about this already before, right? Where we made some changes to the team a few months ago, and we changed the mindset of how we operate internally. Like what we did was we brought a lot of people who are a lot closer to the community into more decision-making roles. And if you've seen a big change in pace and the type of content and everything happening in Pixels in the last 3 months, which I think everybody has, it's because of these people. They've been doing a really, really good job. And I have like a ton of trust in them to do well with merchant ships also. So there's updates coming out there. I'm not going to give you a timeline or a date because truthfully, I'm just like letting them do their thing a little bit, but it's coming. What's so funny, Heidi?
They just made a GIF of me again in Discord.
Silverwing asked about MoonPay. So there are some Web3 native processors. The issue with them is you have to KYC to use them. You have to KYC to use MoonPay. So you have to do it once, and then after that, you can use Apple Pay. But people don't understand in gaming, you have to hyper optimize every single part of the funnel. It just is non-viable to make a game that requires something like MoonPay. We'd rather do is figure out how to like still take in people who don't want to onboard into crypto's revenue, and then use that to benefit the people who have onboarded into crypto. Give us some updates about vPIXELs. Okay, this is actually a great discussion. So vPIXELs, it's ready to release if we wanted to. Here's an issue. If we want to release vPIXEL directly in-game, it's all or nothing, basically. We would have to switch all of the Taskboard rewards to vPIXEL and any other pixel reward to vPIXEL. It's the way it was coded, and to me, that seems a little risky to do that all at once. There might be some ways that we can roll it out more slowly. We might be able to just give out vPIXEL in this new offer wall setting that we're doing, but that's a little bit of a risk with vPIXEL, right? I think it's a little too soon to go all in on only vPIXEL rewards, even though that could have some benefits. It could have some downsides too, right? So maybe talk among yourselves on what we should do there. Because if we do have a ton of community people wanting us to just go all in on vPIXEL, then yeah, we can get it out. But yeah, the way that we built it in game, it's kind of got to go immediately now. So that's why we haven't rolled it out, because we would have done it already otherwise. We're looking for ways that we can slowly do it more. So what I will say is, if things aren't working out, maybe that is a decision that we have to do in the long run. And that's one way that we can make vPIXEL sustainable, right? We start just giving out vPIXEL. But it seems a little too early to do that. I don't think we're going to do it immediately. But yeah. Well, okay. So here's why we want to do it slowly rather than all at once. Because the big question is, how much do people want a vPIXEL compared to a normal pixel, right? If people want one vPIXEL just about as much as normal pixel, that's actually really, really good for the game. And again, vPIXEL, it's different than normal pixel. What it is it's a spend or stake only version of Pixel. If you can stake vPIXEL, it's the same thing as staking a normal pixel, and you can stake it on chain, and you can also ideally spend it in other games as well. But it might not go as far when it comes to some of the user acquisition, some of the retention too. Like, I think if we were to just go all in on vPIXEL, we would probably lose some users, right? Which is natural and it makes sense. And maybe it is a net benefit to the ecosystem. But I don't think it's the right decision to do that right this second. If we had a bunch of other updates coming and there were like some other like games that were like about to release right this second, it would make sense. But it seems a little early.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I think we went over a lot today.
Okay, then we have one more thing to address, because I know I even tweeted about hosting a wedding for Travis and Taylor in game. And so many people have been asking me about putting something Taylor related in game. Guys, unfortunately, we always have to be very careful with IP usage. And if you know anything about Taylor Swift, she's very protective of her IP, as she should be. Honestly, people try to use her all the time. So unfortunately, we cannot, but I want to so bad. It would be so much fun. Anyways, with that, guys, I was literally on a Sky Mavis call yesterday with Luke when I read the announcement, and I don't know what happened for the final half of that call. I'm sorry, Luke. I was like, oh my God. Anyways, with that, thank you all for coming to this week's live stream. And yeah, we've got some more things on the way in the short term and the long term. And
also, okay, I literally just higher lower leaderboard. I was number 1 at the beginning of this AMA. Now I'm number 2, and Nala is beating me again.
Damn, guys, go beat Luke. That should be your goal. New goal. My house isn't crooked. We've been through this. Okay, it's whatever. I'm not going through it. Okay, bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.